Let's get it started and let's get it started and here.
So how
Yeah.
are you feeling today?
I always wake up feeling good. I've
hmm
definitely set my default to being, I'm the man
hmm
of the house, which is by default since I live alone. So,
Right.
uh, yeah.
All right. So, what time did you finally go to sleep?
Not long after we texted, I was probably maybe another 30 minutes. So I don't know what time that was. Like it was like 6:30 here or something.
Were you able to get some rest and
Yeah, I went to sleep and I woke up 7 minutes ago. So, so I got a solid 7 hours of rest.
Okay. Okay. All right. So do you want to talk about what's going on or
Yeah. I don't know. So what happens is I think like I said, I wake up feeling good, and as the day progresses, I feel the anxiety and like pressures start to kick in. One thing I've noticed. So after Christiana passed away, um, I went through that whole mourning process and all that. I came out on the other end feeling um, like a refreshed, like an entirely different perspective on life. Obviously, having to deal with something like that and facing like the idea of mortality and stuff like that. So I was like, I didn't give a damn about anything. Like I didn't care about what anybody thought, which totally was the first time that I really started diving into my creativity and working on things and like really. So that feeling of like not caring what anybody thought really was like a huge fire.
hmm
And I don't know. And when I first moved into this apartment, so it's been a month and some change. I first moved into this place. I still had that fire, and I did all kinds of cool stuff, and things were still going. And I think it's because of that fear that we were talking about yesterday. That's kind of put me backwards, and I'm kind of feeling this like, because now I'm like, I can feel myself not saying what I want to say, and like being like, I have to force myself to be funny, which isn't usually the case. I'm just goofy all the time usually. You know what I mean? And when I'm doing my Snap stories, which I have a ton of people who follow me on Snapchat. Anybody who's watching, follow me on Snapchat, Tevin_Michael. Hilarious shit. I have to force myself sometimes to like have to do take after take to get something funny to find itself, which normally isn't ever the case. I just get on there and just funny shit happens. Uh, so I think it has to do with that fear.
the fear? Um, so which really takes me to the topic that I wanted to talk about today anyways, which was belief.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometime last year, I did a webinar. So I do another show. It's called Navigating the New Paradigm with David and Sandy Lear. And we had a couple other guests on, and one of them works at a drug treatment center out in California. And it's a drug treatment center that somebody was recovering, or somebody was in addiction, and he actually found, basically what I've done is taken different like yoga, meditation, different studies like Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about meditation and getting your brain into like a theta state and actually healing your body, that we're capable of healing ourselves. And so I found all these different teachings and kind of put them together for a program for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what I present at my Friday meeting that we talked about a few times. I have a Friday meeting that I do at a treatment facility here in Warren, Youngstown area. And I offer these topics for people that are in recovery to take a piece here, take a piece there, find what resonates, and put together a program for themselves. Well, this guy out of California, I can't remember what his name is, but his name is the name of the facility.
Mm.
And that's exactly what he did. And he created a treatment facility around what he did. When I did this, I didn't know that somebody had already done this. It's already been labeled, but he took what his program was, which is not the same as mine, and it's not the same as what any amount of people that I've presented this to have really made it a personal thing, because just like with life in general, recovery, there's just no one size fits all with anything. And we talk about AA and the 12 steps and stuff like that. We're talking about a program that was created in the 30s. That is before we even had computers that we know about. But, you know, the internet. And so we have a completely different lifestyle. We know so much more about the brain. And so there's some really hardcore recovery out there that says that this is the way, you have to do it this way, you have to do the steps, and there's no other program. Or there's the Christian-based program where it's this, again, the boxes. You have to fit within this box, and this is it.
Right.
And I completely disagree. I think that's why there's so much relapse. Because there's something that happens at the 2-year mark. But anyways, I regressed. Okay.
I digress. Sips tea.
All right, so we had this guy from California on our webinar with us. And for some reason, I felt very, very insecure. He has all these degrees, and he'd done so much work. Of course, he's not a recovering addict. He'd never had the actual experience of it. But there's something that happens when you have just the book knowledge versus the actual experience, right?
100%.
And at that time, I'd still been dealing with my inferiority, not enough complex, not good enough complex, and my own insecurities. And so I felt very small, and I was stuttering and nervous. Now, my perception of the meeting was that he was aggressive and rude and kind of attacking. But then when I got off of the meeting, I went back and watched it, and none of those things happened. My second time around, and actually watching it from a different perspective, from being the viewer, the observer, was, instead of being in it, in the vortex of energy, was completely different. And so I started to come to the conclusion that, oh my gosh, could we all be experiencing reality differently? Could I hear something that you don't hear? And after I started doing some studying and some research on it, yes, that is the truth of our reality. It seems that we all have our individual realities, but then we also have the collective has an agreed upon reality that we all experience together. It's like one central hub with all these little hubs that come off, you know, so we kind of meet in the middle. This is the central hub of the agreed upon reality. So what I always say is that I'm responsible for what I say, but I'm not responsible for what you hear. So when we have these interactions with each other, we never come face to face with each other just as you being Tevin and me looking at you as just this human being for this, just like this energetic who you are, right? When I see you or anybody else, not necessarily you, you're a bad example because you're my son, but just the people in general. Okay, let's say I meet somebody who has tattoos. When I see their tattoos, I immediately think, subconsciously, not realizing it, I immediately think of all the things that I've learned about tattoos, all the things that I think about people that have tattoos, all the stories that I've read, all the things I've seen on TV, every movie. My mind plays through all those things without me even realizing it, and I've already put judgment there, first of all. But any interaction on any subject, we come into all these interactions with all this baggage, all this belief. And so our interactions are always clouded, always, until we can shed all that, right? Until you actually become aware of it and start working on it. Right. And so I kind of, and so when you have insecurities, you're actually experiencing the world from that place. And I use as the analogy, it's like having a screen in front of you. And your screen is dirty from all your traumas and all your experiences and all your insecurities. And as you experience reality, it's coming through and picking up all the dirt. And that's your experience. And so if we need to clean our screens, basically, so that we can experience the real reality without all the, so I would say to somebody, that's why I say it's so important to be the observer, to step outside of yourself and start being the observer. Because when you're in living in reality, deep inside the energetics of it, not being the observer, I say like you're in this vortex. When you're in that, your screen is always clouded. You're never experiencing reality cleanly, you know? But when you step outside from that other perspective, like me watching that video after we recorded it and seeing it from a different perspective, what I experienced through my dirty screen is not what I experienced from the observer perspective.
Right.
And that's why, like with the kids, I said they were going crazy and I was in the energy of it, completely overwhelmed. And then I decided that I'm going to start viewing this like a movie, you know, as the observer and not the person that's being tortured.
So we're old people standing at the front door, and the screen's dirty, and we're yelling at the kids through the screen. That's what we're doing. Get out of my yard. Is that an accurate representation of what you're saying?
No, not at all.
No.
No.
So that we're in the vortex.
Yeah.
So we're in the vortex, in the vortex of things, and we're just standing here in the dirty screen. And so that's what we got to clean our screen. We got to change our perspective. So we got to step outside and play with the kids, and not.
So let's look at it like a filter. Let's say it's your furnace filter, and you haven't changed it in 10 years. So when the heating system turns on and that air comes through, you're getting dirt in your air. When your filter is clean, you're getting nice, pristine air.
Nice, fresh H2O.
Right, and the way that it was meant to be. H2O, that's water.
Note to self, H2O,
H2O
is water.
Speaking of water, I would for anybody that's watching this, I would have people look up Dr. Emoto for vibration. We talk about vibration and how we're creating our reality with vibration. Dr. Emoto did a whole bunch of research on consciousness and putting conscious intent into water, and it actually formed crystals. And when he put positive things like I love you and just positive intentions into it, the crystals were beautiful and very symmetrical and geometry, like sacred geometry type stuff. And then when he put negative intention into the water crystals, they were very distorted, splattered all over the place, did not come together in a good manner. So our bodies are over 70% water. So when we're saying things to ourselves in our subconscious, that critic, that ego that says you're stupid, you're not enough, you're not good enough, all the negativity that we do to ourselves, that is, our body is more, we know the consciousness of water. We know how consciousness works. I saw some of the posts with people that had questions about things. And they were questions, I just lost my train of thought.
In reference to last night's episode?
Yeah. Was that last night? That was the night before. 2 nights ago.
Was it? My days are off. It was one long day.
It was the night before. It was the night before. What was it? It was about. Are
you talking about on our video? Or on
Marilyn put something about teaching more positive history. Lauren actually asked a question about that too, is why do we always teach the negative? And I would say that it's not necessarily that we teach the negative history, it's who's teaching it. So again, it goes back to that filter. Because if the person is a negative person, they're going to concentrate more on negativity. And so if it's being presented by somebody that is negative, they're going to pull out the pieces that apply to them. They're going to pull out the pieces that resonate with them. And if they have a negative energetic, that is exactly what they're going to vibrate towards. We've talked about energetics before, and that's the law of, that's physics. Like attracts like.
And that makes you think just on a national level in general, just jobs in general, people, service jobs, anything, the people that are working those jobs, if their energetics are negative, that's why I make probably the most money of most people that work out here. And I feel like it's because of that energetic, and people just see me and they feel this, like, I'm going to give him my entire wallet at the end of this transaction type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I completely agree with you. That's exactly what it is. It's your energetics. I've had people say, though, opposites seem to attract. And opposites, it's just about perception, though, because, okay, so the narcissist, and the codependent actually have the same problem. They just are they're living it differently, but it's the same insecurity. It's the same issue. And so that's what like attract likes. And we talked with the video that we didn't get to record about vibration, and that we are just vibrating light, and how vibration works. And so the higher your vibration is, in the law of the physics, which has been proven through science, well, quantum physics anyways, that whatever you want is already out in the universe. It is just vibrating at a certain vibration, and you need to match that vibration to bring it into your reality. And so if you're living a life that is very negative, and you're unhappy, and you're in that vibration, you will going to bring more of that into your life, because like attracts like. That's why it's so important to get your vibration up. If you want to have a happy life, that's what you'll do. The happier you get, the more you will bring more of that happiness into your life. But it's these ups and downs that are a problem. This, like what you're experiencing, you know, as the day goes on, you start to get more and more detached from that vibration. Your vibration starts to lower. And is it your subconscious that it, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, where I would be at if I didn't have that positive self-talk. Because that's one thing that I am 100% huge on. Like, anytime I go into any situation, whatever the situation is and the connotation of it, I start preparing that self-talk going into that situation. Like, when I go into work, I take a shower, and I turn the shower on cold, and I start doing like these positive affirmations, getting like this shake of this rush of emotion and energy. And like, I am money. Like, I am, you know what I mean? I am positive energy. I am positive flowing red energy. I am, and there's this whole thing that I go through when I'm about to get to work. I blast some Bruno Mars 24 karat gold, and I'm, you know, people are staring at me at red lights like I'm crazy. And I get into work, and I have this feeling of, I don't need your money type thing. Like, I am money. I am that energy. And people, you know,
that is exactly it right there. You got it right. You nailed it right on the head. That's it. When you empower it, when you become it. Have you ever seen the movie called The Moses Code?
Sounds hippie.
Well, so the first part of Genesis, is it Genesis? It's one of the parts of the Bible where Moses goes up to get the 10 Commandments, and there's the burning bush. And he says, I am. God says, I am that I am. And so the idea that God is actually everything and anything. And so if you can take that idea to empower yourself, that I am everything. If you are everything, then you are everything. And that includes full abundance in every way. So if you say, I am money, that's exactly what you will continue to create, because we are creators.
Right.
So anyways, I want to get back to the belief. Marilyn asked about the things that we teach in school. And I really, this is one of the issues. I think that that's where we're going wrong in some ways, is that how much have what you learned in high school or junior high do you actually apply to your daily life?
Zero.
But there are so many things that we could learn about compassion, empathy, a balance between empathy and apathy, how to live our lives in a mindful way, how to do deep breathing. We don't learn how to live a healthy lifestyle. I didn't know what a coping skill was. I had no way to cope with reality. I didn't know how to cope with reality. I just thought it was what it was, and I just had to kind of get through it. But that's not the case at all. But we don't learn that. And if our parents don't know it, they don't know to teach it. We're not getting it anywhere else. So these are the things that I think we would use every day. It was such a healthier society if we would teach our children these things.
Yeah, there's textbooks on our natural cognitive biases, the things that our brains do to adapt to certain situations, all these things that ultimately now's age hinder us. But there's textbooks over textbooks about these things. And if children learn what their brains do to them at, you know, the late middle school, early high school level, when they can fully understand it and be able to manipulate it for their better, I mean, that alone would change society on its head.
Right.
The idea of knowing like, oh, okay, well, if this situation happens, my brain's going to do this because of this evolutionary blah, blah, blah. So then when this happens, oh, okay, well, I know that this is going to happen. Okay, so I'm going to do this instead. So now I'm capitalizing on the situation rather than just being sucked down into this hole of not understanding what's going on.
Right.
That's when anxiety and depression and all that shit happens.
Right. Right. So can you step outside of yourself and look at your brain and your whole physical body? Like I said when we spoke last, that we are not our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Know that your brain is just a computer and you're not your brain. So your brain is going to process information and compute like whatever it's been trained to do, whatever's been programmed to do, basically. And so if we think about our lives and what we've experienced, there's been a lot of negative programming. And so, but that's not you. That is not who you are. You are not your brain. And so it's just a program. And so to be able to step outside, when you can step outside and feel yourself there in that awareness of just being you without the body.
I'm doing it right now and it feels weird.
But you realize that the thoughts in your brain and your own thoughts are not the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's not the same thing. That separation gives you control back. You're not just a victim.
Is there a woman with a huge ass backing up right now? Is that what that
They're repaving the street out.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a big booty neighbor. I'm sorry.
No, actually, speaking of that, we did get new neighbors. All of a sudden, everybody moved. The Browns sold their house. They've been here for 50 years. And they moved.
The Browns. Yeah.
The Browns. And then the Hispanics across the street. Mm-hmm. There was about 10 of them in that house.
Oh, really? They all got in the same car, too? That's terrible.
We're on that tomorrow show about racism.
I said it. You didn't have to say it. I said it. I have a comedic license.
But there's a lot of lag on this right now. Are you experiencing that too?
On your side, I was a little bit earlier. I'm not right now.
Okay. Mr. Bojangles.
Yeah, that's my name today. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So what I started doing was, especially when you're driving, you'll catch yourself really, your mind going, right? When you're doing certain things, busy work like mowing the lawn, doing dishes, your mind will wander. Mm-hmm. And so I started paying attention to the thoughts that I was having. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, holy shit, how did I get here? And I would start tracing my thoughts back. Mm-hmm. And the way that I started to learn how my mind was operating. And it does some crazy shit. Mm-hmm. It just kind of has a mind. My mind has a mind of its own. It really does. It does. It's never, well, I'll tell you, the first time my mind was actually blank. So when I went into recovery, they offered yoga. This is the first time I did yoga. This is 7 years ago. Mm. And I'm like, I'm here for recovery. I'm not here to learn yoga. I was such an asshole. God, was I an idiot. And so when I look at my, and this is what I'm talking about. When we talk about people, how do you know what the first step is? I was in my box. I knew everything. You couldn't tell me anything. Now I did have the gift of being able to understand other people's perspective. I was willing to go to see other people's perspective, to try to understand that. But I thought I knew everything. I just thought I was so clever and so smart, and I was fucking clueless. I really was. And they told me, well, you could just sit in the chair and kind of do some deep breathing. Well, I decided the next time I went that because what was I afraid of? I was afraid people were going to look at me. I was afraid I was going to bend over and accidentally fart, right? Which happens in yoga. I was afraid of all these crazy things that my mind at the time, because I was a slave to my mind at that time. Yeah. And so I decided I was just going to go, and I was going to go up front, So I couldn't see anybody else, and I would have everybody behind me, and I was going to close my eyes.
Mm.
And I got very lucky because my teacher was one of the best teachers at the time, you know. And she said there's no judgment in yoga, because I was worried about doing it right.
Right.
If I had the moves proper, if I was in proper alignment. And so actually for the first class, and I still have this from 7 years ago, and I got this on the first class, and it says alignment. We all desire to be the best we can be, wholly and fully complete. Alignment is the process where we remember that we come from source and choose our words and actions to match as closely as we can to source energy. When we are aligned to this energy, we do our highest good naturally, without great effort. Alignment is simply co-creation. And at the time, I did not know what the hell that meant. Now I know what that means, and now I live my life like this. But so when I closed my eyes and did yoga that first time, it was the very first time in my whole life that my mind was actually blank.
Wow.
And so that's why I always prescribe yoga for people.
Right.
At least because people look at it as an exercise. And I say it's not an exercise, it's a meditation where you're stretching and learning to breathe. And it's actually where I learned that I wasn't my body. So I could remove myself from my body if I was in pain, like stretching. I would breathe into that area and kind of remove myself. And so I couldn't feel the pain in a way. And then I started realizing that there was something else here, something else going on,
Something fishy here. I'm not understanding.
But and then I started meditation, and I actually took a meditation class because I thought I was meditating wrong. And so I kept telling the lady, like, well, this is what happened. I did this and this and this. And she said, Charlotte, you know how you could do meditation wrong? And I'm like, how? Tell me. I want to know. How do you do it wrong so I can make sure I do it right? And she said, I'm not doing it. Every time you meditate, you're automatically raising your vibration. By just closing your eyes, there's so many different meditations. Just breathing and becoming center. It's not a fight against your thoughts.
Right.
You can use your imagination and go on a journey, because believe, if you are actually imagining it, it's a reality somewhere. It's a possibility. And so, I was so analytical and in my head.
That's where I am right now. That's where I'm right now.
It's hard to, it's a journey to get out of there.
Yeah.
I wanted to know the right way to do things, but wait, that's so woo-woo, and is that real? That seems so BS, right? And then I started actually seeing, okay, if we only see 20% of the light spectrum, that means 80% of what's in this room I cannot see. 80%. Who's the one in control?
Right.
I mean, what part of my body am I not seeing? They say it's woo-woo that we have these other energetic bodies. They're there. We just can't perceive them. Like DNA is a multi-leveled, multi-dimensional record and instructions, and we don't understand reality. That's just exactly what it is. We don't even understand a little drop of it. But we act like we know what is going on, and we're clueless.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying, is that that feeling of security when if anybody challenges what we believe is fact as reality, that's when insecurity, and that's when people get defensive, and that's when all those things happen.
Right.
Because I felt myself doing that just recently. Like I said in that in yesterday's thing about how that guy mentioned something to me and it was just the wrong time and it was something I didn't want to hear. And the fact that I reacted the way that I did was clearly off of just a challenge of my safety zone, my safety net that I was in that moment. So yeah, it's interesting that how that works.
Okay, so I wanted to also talk about, so the other things that play into getting us off center, right, and beginning to lower our vibration. Diet,
which is
huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's insane. the amount, and it's almost easy once you realize it. It's not easy to accomplish having the proper diet, but it's easy to understand, like, okay, these things clearly aren't helping me. These things are, you know what I mean? So, and what the answer is to exactly the perfect diet is, there's really not one. That's another one of those things that it's kind of, you know, it's not a one size fits all.
Well, one thing is, if you can't pronounce it, then it doesn't belong in your body, because when you're digesting it, it's information. Your body is light, and you are digesting information. You're digesting data, right? Mm-hmm. So what your body needs to work properly is other living data, other DNA. Not triglyceride and glyphosate and, you know what I mean, all this other BS that doesn't belong in food. There's no place for that in your body. Now, if you wake up at 2 a.m. and you have a hankering for a cupcake, have a fucking cupcake. Right. You know what I mean? But don't eat the whole tray of them. Right. And then eat Lunchables for lunch, and then pizza for dinner. And, you know, when it's about balance. Obviously, you can play a little bit, you know, but there's also a school of belief that says that it's only bad for you if you believe it's bad for you. But I've tried that. That, oh, well, only if I believe it's bad for me. But when you have been indoctrinated into and taught and programmed, it's very difficult to undo that programming. I've undone some programming, but that one I haven't been able to get to.
I feel like the people who think that are all obese. So,
well, you know what, and you're right. The people who say that are the ones that are smoking 2 packs a day,
right?
That are gaining weight. And remember, I told you I had my little issue where I wasn't feeling good for like 2 days, and it was because of something that I didn't address that happened between me and Ian. A feeling that I had, and I didn't say anything. And a couple hours later, the feeling went away, so I thought I'd never had to address it. But during those couple days that built up to me not feeling good, I was eating Lunchables. I was just, you know, I wasn't on that really healthy, organic, live food diet. And so all those things were a contributing factor. So let's talk about our gut health. Do we realize that 70% of our serotonin is produced in our gut? We have a second brain in our gut. Actually, our third brain, our heart, also has more neurons. I want to say there's so many neurons that are actually in your heart. So there's heart math. We'll try to get into that on one of these episodes. But also in our gut, there's a lot that's going on in your gut, and you can get depressed by having too many carbohydrates, too much gluten, too much of that type of stuff in your diet will make you depressed. Because your parasite and bacteria count, well, you shouldn't have a parasite, but your bacteria count is off. And that will make you depressed because you're not producing the right amount of serotonin to keep you uplifted and feeling the way that you need to feel. And all the other, if you're too stressed out, you've got your adrenals sitting right on top of your kidneys, and they're adrenal fatigue. Your body doesn't know the difference between being attacked by a lion and bouncing a check. Your body reacts the same way. And so it's dumping all these chemicals. And look at the society that lived in. I recently did one of my classes on, I think it was like 100 years ago, we had the stimuli in one day. No. It was something like it would have taken a year to have the stimuli that we have in 1 hour. You know what I mean? It was like something like that. Like, we have so much stimulation in our lives now. Right. You think 100 years ago, just like Meemaw said, she used to go out and just pick cotton, and you know what I mean. That their day was so there wasn't a lot of stimulation. Just think of a day now, from the second you wake up. Yeah. I mean, it's non-stop.
I think that's another thing that's playing into what has been going on with me in my brain is because I've been doing a lot of this media stuff and, you know, figuring things out and experimenting different things with the market. I literally wake up and immediately get on my phone and I'm checking all my social medias. I'm checking the analytics. I'm checking all this and that, looking at my bank account, seeing how much money I need to make this weekend when I go to work so I can make sure I can pay this and buy these cool posters and build this art studio that I'm trying to build.
Right.
And with all the projects that I'm working with, I feel like I feel like, so one of the first things that I feel like people need to that I do, one of the first things that I need to do when it comes to working with all these things is simplifying and automating. So if we could get into maybe to some of the things that we can do to kind of relieve some of this mental anxiety and all these things, the first thing for me is automating and simplifying. So creating that vision first, that's the first thing that I do, so that now I have a direction to move in. Once that's done, then simplifying. So I know that I need to do vocal lessons. I know I need to work out because I know that all the benefits. And rather than having any sort of narcissistic view on it, like, you know, oh, I can sing, or, oh, now I look good. It's just automated. I know what the results are going to be. I know that the results are going to be positive. So I just wake up and I do these things. So now there's no mental cache. There's no mental processing power that needs to be done in order to accomplish that. So I'm simplifying that. Yeah, so that's that for me. I kind of took the conversation somewhere else, but
no. But okay, so my question is, that's a process to get there. There's a lot of control that you have to relinquish, and there's a lot of mind chatter that you have to be able to not worry, or you have to be able to release.
Yeah.
And that is a very hard thing for people to do. They worry. They want control. It's like they want control, but they don't realize they have no control. The more control you try to have, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're really your own enemy when it comes to that. But
yeah, it's difficult.
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay, because you want to have that, not the headache, right? Not the headache of your mind worrying about those things.
Right. That's the thing, is there's so many things in my life that I want to accomplish, or so many things I want to do, and I feel like in most people's lives, before they get to this step, they don't know what it is that they want to do, but they still have that anxiety of the world judging them because they aren't X, Y, and Z that they have subconsciously in their mind.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about belief. This goes back to belief. Worrying about what it is that you need to do. Is it what you want to do? Is it what somebody told you should be doing? You know, is it really you, or is it somebody else?
Right.
And we've really got to do these deep dives, right? We really got to go within and look and see who we are, what we're made of, what is it we enjoy. You know, I didn't even know what I enjoyed there for a while. I didn't even know what I liked. I didn't even know. I'd never even had let myself be creative. I had to be an adult so soon that I forgot how to be a child. And you need some of those things to rediscover yourself. You need that playfulness and to explore. And so society, especially, and I'm going to say for women, even for men, but more so for women, we feel like, I recently, within the last year, worked with somebody who this was their big issue. She was really programmed to believe that she was supposed to go to school, go to college, graduate, marry somebody, have kids, have the house, have the picket fence, you know, do whatever. And so there's this programmed societal programming that happens. That's where our idea of what we should and shouldn't be doing is coming from. So these are the things that we really need to address. Is it a societal program, or is it something that you really, really want? And why do you want it? You know, start asking yourself why. I have another lady that's in my Friday group that she's so worried about aging and so worried about gaining weight. And I'm like, why? Because, and she says, well, because I don't want to get old. And I said, why? Well, because then if I get old, I won't look right. Well, why does it matter? You know, and I kept saying, why? You've really got to get to the why. And at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Nothing to do with you. It's because somebody told you that that's what you were supposed to be. Or aging is bad. And only in Western society, because in Western society, we throw our aging population to the side. And then in Eastern societies, those are the sages. And that's the way it really should be. they're right, I think, in their thinking with
Mm-hmm.
that. But, and so in finding what you want in life, you've got to find, well, first of all, you got to find what you don't want.
Right.
You got to find, you got to really do some deep diving into why you are thinking the way you're thinking, because even your thinking is messed up.
Right.
It's all programming. It's all belief. At the end of the day, everything is based on belief.
Right.
It's basically three things. It's judgment, it's belief, judgment, and fear. It all comes down to belief, judgment, and fear. Our whole society.
Painful.
Oh, that's it. We can wrap it up there. Belief, judgment, and fear. But I
And
mean,
cut.
it's the truth. It's the when you start evaluating things, it's usually because you're judging yourself for somebody else. It's usually a belief or a program,
Mm-hmm.
or it's usually a fear.
So that goes to, that's another jewel right there, is the people that we surround ourselves with is pivotal.
Yes.
That is
So
pivotal.
there's somebody wrote something. You are a mix of the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
There's a lot of those. Show me your 5 best friends and I'll show you your future. That's another
Right.
one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely some truth to that. When we go and for recovery, they say people, places, things.
Mm-hmm.
And I say it goes back to vibration. Because if you are going to be around negative people, places, and things, you're going to begin to vibrate the similar to your environment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, if it's negative, it's going to be negative. If it's positive, Jackie Nichols, is that her name? Jackie Nichols, I want to say. She's been on Oprah and a whole bunch of, she's like a
That sounds like a porn star.
transformational coach.
Okay.
And so I am a transformational guide. She's a transformational coach because she built her own brand, right? She has the thing, like her program, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a take this piece, take this piece, take this piece. I would send you to her.
Mm-hmm.
But she used to go to, she went to one seminar like 72 times.
Wow.
She went to the seminar 72 times. And she said first she was just the first female, like there was only 3 other female, and then she was the only African American.
Mm.
And then the last 20 times she actually taught the seminar. But
Wow.
she would go to people's homes that were very wealthy and she would touch their stuff. She would just be around these people that she wanted to learn from, that she wanted to be. And there's something to that because they're vibrating at a certain rate, and you being with them will eventually raise your vibration.
Right.
So, and not to mention all of the wealth of knowledge that you're learning from them.
Exactly.
And they're great people who are healthy are way better friends and support in your life because
Yeah.
they don't come with a bunch of baggage. They've usually cleared all their baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the people that you surround yourself with, very, very important.
It's key.
So what's the other thing? So people that you surround yourself with, what else?
So what was the first one was simplifying. For me, simplifying the people you surround yourself with. Obviously, creating a direction to even move in as far as goals and a vision of what you want your life to be. Back to what you were saying about the imagination, trusting, and then going back to belief in oneself, that this is even possible. In that little snippet of the Pineapple Romance interview, I mean, that was what was huge for me, was just, I faked it until it became true, essentially. Like early on, like I was not great at these things. And, I kept making music. I kept just challenging myself in these things. And I really wasn't great, but I would tell myself like, I'm the fucking man. I cornered this market,
Right.
even though clearly it wasn't true. But at some point, my what I would produce would get better and better, and people would be like, oh wow, if anybody would make it, you'd be the one to make it. And once I heard that is when I really believed it. I had I think it was on Instagram, somebody commented, like an old friend of mine is like, yo, out of everybody, we're waiting on you. Like you're the one at some point. Like this is gonna be you. And once I saw that, that's when I was like, you know what, all this talk, all this shit talking I've been doing, actually, there might be something to this. And
Right.
then I believed it. And now I've got, you know, an apartment in Las Vegas. And
Because you're creating your own reality and you're really
right.
doing it. Her name's not Jackie Nichols, it's Lisa Nichols. Lisa
Mm,
Nichols. And she said that as well, is that, okay, so, she had a lot of things that she was ashamed of and she needed to forgive herself for. And so every day she would say, I forgive you, and to herself, and that how
mm-hmm,
great she was, same thing, until it
mm-hmm,
became true. And at first it was very uncomfortable to say,
mm-hmm,
and then she just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And I say all these things feel very awkward in the beginning when we start down this path,
mm-hmm,
but it's just like a muscle. And the more you work it and work it and work it, and we are severely atrophied, right? We have atrophied really bad. All
right.
these muscles we've never used before, because like I used that analogy last time, like the child that you keep pushing down and telling them that they cannot walk. It's useless. Don't walk. Just sit there. You'll never be able to do anything with yourself.
Mm-hmm,
And so they eventually, like the elephant, when they're babies, they tie their trunk around that little tiny tree. And they try and try, but eventually they stop, and then they become these huge behemoths that are tied around this little tiny tree, and they don't even try to tear the tree out because
they
they've
don't
been
know.
programmed.
Right.
And so that is the program that society has fed us. And so, working these muscles, working them for the first time is very uncomfortable, but just keep doing it, and you get sore, you get
Mm-hmm.
tired, but you just keep doing it, because eventually you don't have to work the muscle. The muscle works itself.
And it makes you think of the possibilities. Like the idea, you know, like me right now, something I was thinking about yesterday was, okay, so I got the affirmation part of it down. I understand that when I create a vision and I speak it and believe it, then I'm moving, the universe is going to provide it for me, and I'm moving in that direction. But there's other, you know, then there's the health aspect, and and it's like the possibilities of, what if I can connect all of these dots as a whole? Like, what would happen? Like, you know, it's like, in that
Right.
curiosity and that, you know, there's kind of some hope that is provided in that sense.
I'll tell you one of the things that's key in all this that they don't tell you in most of these books and most of these videos, and how to create, is emotion. Our emotion is one of the strongest things that we have aside from our imagination, and using our imagination and using emotion together. So when you feel it deeply, that is when you're really creating. That is when matter and plasma are literally forming. It's
Mm-hmm.
outside of another dimension that you can't see, but it is becoming physical reality.
Mm-hmm.
When you're using your emotion, you have so much time when you get angry to pull back,
Mm-hmm.
to not manifest that, because it takes time. Like we said, it's a muscle, and so it takes time to learn how to control ourselves, because we've been this like crazy, just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly what we're creating, chaos. But it's hard it takes a lot of practice to not get angry or irritated or any of these low vibration type feelings and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're first doing it, and you catch yourself, it's about being self-aware, right? And you catch yourself. It's important to get out of that and remedy it, because you will create something because of that. And so emotion is a very strong thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're depressed or you're getting upset, or something's happening there, that's a strong emotion. It's a
Yeah.
state of being. And so what can you do to pull yourself out of that place immediately so that you don't create from that place?
And another difficult thing is when people are they're trying to create that emotion. They're doing these affirmations and they're like, this just seems like bullshit. I can't even find any emotion to be put behind what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Something practical that people can do to start off is the cold shower, when they're in the shower, the last 30 seconds of, or however long you can handle, when you turn that water to cold and it hits you, you just have this jolt of just endorphins and everything. In that moment, immediately start doing your affirmations, all this stuff, and you will just, out of that situation, so that's something practical that people can try to do and then over the course of a few weeks, I would imagine that you would start to feel some sort of changes.
Well, and just physically, that's really good for your body anyways. That
Right.
and empties your lymphatic system. It's great for your pores. It's great for your hair. I mean, that is really good for your whole body. But what I've done for that is what I did was establish an anchor point. Okay. So, and I think I mentioned this to you in the video that we didn't get to record. So when my vibration is low, what I do is, so when I first started down this path, I started with Greg Braden. And if anybody's interested, you can look him up. And he, and I think we'll do a video on this. He refers a lot to heart math. And they do a lot of research on your heart and creation and self-healing and things like that. And so they do what's called heart breathing. And so you're like breathing in and out of your heart and imagining this warmth. Well, when he talks about getting to that place, he talks about one of your experiences that is the experience that you can feel in every cell. And for me, it was like when you were born, when my children were born. Mm-hmm. And so it was this moment of I wanted to cry and I was exhausted, but I had this unconditional love, this very deep love. And so it's this feeling that is just overwhelming. I was happy, but I was crying at the same time. You know what I mean? It was just like, and so if you can find and tap into a memory that you have, that you remember how it felt, how good it felt, you know, in every cell. And so when I am sick or beginning to get sick, or if I'm beginning to get depressed or I feel my vibration low, I call on that anchor point. I call on that feeling. And so it's really important. I like start it in my heart and I feel it just flood my whole body and every cell is feeling this. And I'm breathing it in and out and I'm completely surrounded by this emotion, right, this love. And that raises my vibration and gets me back where I need to be. That is very important in having an anchor point because you will get thrown off. There will be times when you can't find the anchor point, though. If you get thrown out enough, you cannot even get your body to get to that place.
That's what I was thinking, because that, you know, that's something that that's why I brought up the cold shower thing, is because in this past week I found myself not even being able to even access, feel anything, and I'm sitting there like, this is just garbage. Right. And I would sit there and I would start doing like my affirmations, and I'm just like, I am money, I am, like, you know, and it was. So, and that's why, and when I did that cold shower thing, I came out and I was like, yes, I was on top of the world again. I started working out and blah, blah, blah. And I got right back to my routine.
Right.
So I think that just practicality and, you know, for somebody who's really just can't even get hip with what we're talking about. Right.
Well, so what the answer is that no matter what state you're in, it's all fluid. You don't have to stay there. Mm-hmm. You are in control.
Exactly.
Right. And so, but that one thing that is true is that when all these things change, the one thing that doesn't change is you. Mm-hmm. You as consciousness. So knowing that, not the brain, not the negativity, not that feeling, saying you as that pure being, mm-hmm. you know.
Understanding that it's there.
That pureness of yourself.
Right.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of strength. It gives you a lot of control. It gives you that knowing that you really are the creator of your own reality.
Right.
Because it's the only thing that doesn't change. Everything else changes. Everything else moves. But you don't change. You know, that part of you doesn't change. It's one thing that doesn't change. Even when you die, that's the part of you that moves on. That's the big bang. That's you, the everything. Mm-hmm. And it's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else?
What else?
So
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so what are you finding that, have you been able to pinpoint what it is that's taking you to this place?
I don't know. I was thinking about it. I don't know if maybe it's a little PTSD from Christiana passing away.
I would say no, because you've been struggling with this for a long time.
But I mean, in the sense of being like, after moving into this place and being alone, I don't know if that tapped into that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of going through that.
Hold on one second, Tevin. Let me close this door. Could it be both? Could it be that, okay, so there might be some sort of something that's making there be this up and down, and then so you're overcoming that, but moving into the new place and the trauma is something that's making it that perk back up a little bit.
100%, you are correct, because this is something that I've dealt with for years and years and years, of that, the highs and lows, which I mean is a human thing, but
Right.
there's definitely something there, because I do go through these intense highs and I'm creating and all these things are great, and then my life will get to a pinnacle of where it had been, and then even though I'm at a great position in my life, I'll still fall into some sort of.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I still haven't pinpointed what that is yet, but I don't know. And maybe I know at some point there was, and maybe it's still subconsciously, maybe I've talked myself in the forefront over this, but maybe still subconsciously, the fear of success, the fear of being, what I've talked into existence, being in front of millions of people and blah, blah, blah. And, all these things, maybe there is this still subconscious now fear of the judgment of all of these people and embarrassing myself, or
right. Like before we posted the last video, you gave me that phone call. Are you ready for the ridicule that's going to come?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that was really because I watch a lot of YouTube, and I always go to the comments and see how just hilarious and terrible it is. But yeah, still.
Right. And right. And I understand that. And there would have been a time where, yes, I really would have worried about that, and the comments would have hurt me deeply. But I understand now why people are the way they are and who they are. And anybody that would give a rude comment instead of adding to the story and adding to the let's upliftment of humankind has their own beliefs, judgments, and fears. And that is all that's driving them. And that's sad. I actually feel sorry for them instead of hurt by them.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's underlying fear. Fear of, for me, I actually saw a video, and I think it was the same Lisa Nichols, where there was a lady that said she was struggling with her weight. And she said, we've got to really start being honest about why we can't achieve the things that we want to achieve, our desires. And she says that she would try this and that, and she just can't lose weight. And she said, why are you really not losing weight? I want you to really look at why. Because what happens if you lose weight? And I actually related to this. If you lose weight, then you become sexy. And you become, how does that make you feel? Will you become promiscuous? Will you use your sex and the way you look to get things in life? Will it change your ethics? Will your your morals, will they start to waver? And so if you stay a little chunky, you don't have to worry about those things.
Yeah.
And so there are things that we hide behind, that we say, I just can't seem to fix this, can I? But the truth is we don't want to fix it. But we're not honest enough with ourselves to get down to the real dirt of it. You know? And for some of us, we don't even know it. But we're not even willing to look for answers,
Right, because then that takes us out of our comfort zone, and we're faced with the reality of having to change something that that takes work.
Right, and we're we don't like to work society.
we don't like that kind of stuff. No. Where's my bag of Doritos and my dad Pepsi?
Right, we go to work, we come home, we want to watch TV and not be bothered.
Yeah,
that's true.
Game of Thrones finale.
Right. You sound like me now, binge watching. I get mad, I can't believe that I used to actually watch a show on TV and wait every week.
We used to watch Charmed. I remember you and I used to sit next to you on the couch and we would watch Charmed. No, well, Charmed as well, but Stargate SG-1 was my favorite.
Every Friday night, yeah.
Teal'c was the man.
Yes, he sure was. He still is. I see him every now and then on different sci-fi shows.
Really?
He's on some show that
I'm about to buy the DVD box set of Stargate SG-1 and just relive old memories.
It's on Netflix. You don't even have to buy it. I think it's on Netflix. Yeah. It's on Netflix. It's either on Netflix or it's on Amazon, like on Prime, so it's free. Well, I'll have to give you, if you don't have Amazon Prime, I'll have to just give you my password and my user ID.
Wink, wink. Okay.
So you can get your SG-1. That's important stuff. Got to have your sci-fi.
Oh, man.
It's amazing, though, some of the things that were in that show. are coming out now as real technology, as real
Really?
things that have happened. I always kind of felt like as they got into the seasons on Stargate SG-1, they had a series where there was a guy that was making a show about Stargate. And
Mm.
they were like, well, we'll just let them do it because nobody's going to believe it. And I kind of felt that was like a in your face, like, you guys are the stupid idiots that this is really going on, and we're putting this little show out every Friday night, and this is reality
Hmm.
somewhere on Earth, you know. And
Right.
so I'm really starting to see some of these technologies come out and some of these things happen that were on the show and really get that backup. It makes me wonder what else is really going on, that they're using television and movies as soft disclosure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's deep.
But we won't get into the conspiracy, or I'll try not to get into the conspiracy show, because I think it'll really, sometimes it can turn people off,
Yeah,
you know.
I agree.
But my life now. So I went through, during my awakening, I did go through the phase where I did really start getting into a lot of conspiracy stuff, because as I found out more and more things that were going on that I was unaware of, I actually started to get angry. But it opened doors for me to get to where I'm at. I would not have started like watching Greg Braden or some of these other things had I not got, you know what I mean? It was like I was led on the synchronistic path, and one topic led to another topic, led to another topic. But with the conspiracy stuff, what it does is it takes you out into the world and you become the victim.
Mm.
You become the victim of, oh, they're spraying us with chemtrails. Oh, the Illuminati is doing this to us. You know what I mean? The government and their secret programs is doing this to us. And it doesn't, it just, you can't live from that place. I think that at one time I thought it was important to know what was going on in the world, but I think that is used to move the mass, to actually create some big world events. So
Yeah.
they use us to create their own reality because we are creators. And so they will lead us into fear and give us information to make us feel fearful in a certain way to get us to create certain situations.
Mm.
Like the division that they have us in right now with race wars.
Mm.
It's been a solid effort for division, division, division. There's been division amongst all of us, not just black and white, anything that's different.
Yeah.
Anything different than you, anything different than me. You
Yeah.
know,
Everything going on with the what's the DACA and their deport. Yeah, I forget what the name of the act is that Obama set in place where children that were brought here, they can't be deported, but now they're pulling that back and they're deporting. Yeah.
hmm yeah. So yeah, there was a moment where I felt like it's not that if you don't know it's happening, it's not happening,
Hmm.
but it's not happening in your reality.
Right. That's something
And
I get mixed up with every now and then because I'll see these threads and I'll see what's going on and I'll see all these comments of all these things and I'll feel like and I'll sit there and I think like, man, I really should be like a part of this. I should be like, but then I'm sitting there and I'm like, if I wouldn't have read this, I wouldn't even have known that this was going on.
right, I think
So
that when we're creating our own reality and we get our vibration to a certain height, World War III could be going on outside of your door and not affecting you.
yeah,
Because there's a certain vibration that those things are happening in, and there's a vibration that your life is happening in, and they're not the same, but they coexist. They exist on this plane of reality, and now we're really getting into the science and the quantum physics of things,
hmm,
that there are dimensional planes, and it's all divided by vibration. And so if you're up here and here, though you can see what's happening in the 3D, that you're not experiencing the reality of it because your vibration is too high to attract. You're only attracting things into your reality that are of the same vibration.
hmm,
World War III is a very low vibration. And so anything that has to do with that is not going to affect your reality. The
yeah,
only way it will affect your reality is if that is part of your story and that's part
hmm,
of your growth and you need it to grow. So it's to say that we do have trauma that happens in our lives,
hmm,
but it's because we need it to grow,
right, right. So
right?
yes, speaking of that vision, you creating that vision and talking it into existence, you could bring along a situation that would aid you into. So in that moment, you might think, wow, this ruined. This is opposite of what, but actually it's a part of.
Right. Like you could have something big that you were working on a whole bunch of projects, and all of a sudden everybody backs out, everything's done, all that work gone.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden something else opens up and it's bigger and better. And had you been working on that other thing, that new door would have never opened.
I don't know if this would have happened, because it was when I was telling you that project fell through and all that stuff, and we had that conversation. I was sitting at the house visiting, and then that next morning you were like, why don't we do one? East Coast Mom, West Coast Son, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, that's actually a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So no door closes without another door opening. And there is a synchronicity, but you have to start, I would say here's the next step in what we're talking about here. You have to start looking for the synchronicities and start saying yes to life. Yeah. Because that's one of the big problems is we think everything is coincidence when there is no such thing as coincidence.
Right.
And we say, no, that's not what I have going on in my life right now. I can't try something new.
How do you spell synchronicity?
What's that?
I said, how do you spell synchronicity? I'm just kidding. I'm spelling it wrong, but
what's that?
I said I was actually trying to spell it and I butchered it.
Oh, SYNCH. Oh.
That's wrong.
That is very wrong. Very wrong. So I want to throw this out. Well, I better not say this. Never mind. That's too personal.
That I barely graduated high school? What part?
No. Nothing to do with you. I was going to say something that happened to somebody in our family that was perceived as very dramatic and traumatic for them. And it ended up teaching them unconditional love, what true unconditional love was, because that's what they really needed to see. And I didn't want to, I'm not close enough with those people to say anything.
Okay.
But.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, those situations that, certainly, going through, as I mentioned before, going through Christiana passing away, obviously one of the most devastating things I've ever gone through in my life. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I carry her with me now. She's like this. I have this. I don't know if I should. But I have this very intense, clear vision of me on stage at an award show, accepting an award for like New Artist of the Year, and I have this clear vision of what I'm going to say and about how Christiana should be accepting this award right now. She was an amazing singer, somebody that I loved very much, passed away, March 14th, 2017. And she should be here accepting this award right now. So this is for you. Like that, I have this clear vision of me doing that. And I feel like, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like it's a part of my story now. It's a part of who I am, going through that traumatic experience. And now I carry her with me and that story with me forward.
And let's talk about Christiana for a minute. Let's talk about where pain can take you. That pain can really take us to these really dark places, and not living our lives fully because we're in such pain. How do we escape that? We really have to deal with our pain. We have to look at it and work through it and process it and release it. And society really has taught us something completely different. I don't even think that, again, it goes back to, we don't even know how to cope with pain.
Right.
And
that's why most people try to escape it through these things.
Right.
Alcohol and such.
Right. Well, yeah, it numbs you. It makes you feel like, that's why I used, because not only did it physically numb me, but it mentally numbed me. And I felt like I could go out in society and, socialize with people. It numbed me, so I didn't worry about what people were saying. I didn't worry about their judgment of me. And so I wanted to mention that and I think I mentioned this to you before, but here's another example of what society does and how we should view people without all the beliefs in the judgment, is your brother Darius, my son, right? 19, but through his whole life, I always heard, you know, he could be such a great kid if he only da 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 da. He is whatever, but I'm embarrassed by him because of da 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 da. You know, only if you didn't smoke so much goddamn weed. You know, he wants to be da 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 da. None of which was socially accepted, right? And I suddenly had, within the last 6 months, this moment with him where I looked at him and I saw him for who he truly was. This awesome being, just experiencing this moment through this body. You know, just experiencing being a pothead. Really just kind of floating through life. But really, he has more going on. You know, he's got a lot more going on. But society has played a real sick game on him, too. And the programming and the trauma and the back and forth and the belief and not sure who he is, right? But I looked at him and saw him as this energetic, awesome being that just in his purity, without that social, he could be great, but I saw him great, right? I saw him in his authentic form. And I loved him for the first, like, I loved him. I'd never experienced this feeling of just this deep love and awe of his awesomeness. And I didn't know that that was unconditional love. That is what unconditional love looks like. When you remove all the, she could be great, but if she only didn't do this. No matter what I do, no matter what he does, no matter what you do, there's an authentic part of us that judgment needs to be removed, because it's only society that makes us feel like there's something wrong with it. There's this neutrality that needs to be achieved here. And so that we can really look at each other for who we really are without all the belief systems, and truly unconditionally love each other. The experience of that unconditional love that day, I had said it over and over to people. Oh, I just want you to unconditionally love me. I just want to unconditional. I've read it in 100 books. But when I experienced unconditional love that day, it was a feeling that I've never experienced. There is something great about all of us. I mean, we are infinite, powerful beings, just experiencing for this brief moment. And for some of us, it was we bit off more than we can chew, or we believed that at the time. And we will aid our lives by coping with things outside of ourselves. We think if we have the house, if we marry this person, if we have the car, if I take this drug, if I drink this alcohol, I'm constantly trying to escape by the things that are on my outside. But once we go within and we find who we really are, this infinite, powerful being, everything we need is already inside of us. We don't need anything from the outside. Nothing. That's who we really are.
This was brought to you by. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I just, you know, I think that we don't know that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, we live in a society where you are taught that everything you need is on the outside. And you know the little story that they said, that God said, I will hide it somewhere where they'll never find it. I'll hide it inside of them.
Wow. That's deep. I've never heard that before.
No, it's some sort of, I forget what it is, something very powerful. Where will we hide it? Not at the end of the earth, not at the bottom of the ocean. We'll hide it somewhere they'll never look, inside of their heart or inside of them.
That's deep right there. I'm not even gonna lie. That shook me a little bit. That shook me a little bit. Yeah, 100%.
But that's where you have to go, is inside. Can you say that you could really go on the voyage that you've been on without really doing the deep dive?
Right. Infinite Walters diving deep once again.
I do want to do a t-shirt that says that. You know, living the true version of yourself, or, you know, he's on the mark. And he's somebody, Ralph Smart, for anybody that doesn't know who we're talking about, Infinite Waters. He was doing what society told him to do. He got his degree. He went and got this job. He had this analogy where he talked about going to a restaurant and ordering something, and he didn't want what everybody else was ordering. He asked the waiter what he should order, and the waiter says, well, you could get what everybody gets, but they always come back. They always get the same thing, and they're never satisfied. Or you could get this plate, which people eat it, and sometimes they're afraid, and it ends up being really great, but they never come back because they're completely satisfied. And so that was his analogy about life. And he went for the plate that nobody hardly ever orders because it's too big and it's crazy, and it's because people are afraid of it, the fear, something new, but they're completely satisfied and they never come back. And, you know, so he, with his psychology degree, started doing YouTube videos, and he's huge now, you know.
Right.
He's a forensic psychologist. He worked as a counselor at like a junior high or something, and he hated it.
We're gonna have him. We're gonna have him on there someday.
Yes, we are. That we will. We'll definitely interview him.
Yeah.
Have him on. So, all right. What else?
I think, you know, I feel like we should wrap it up.
Okay. All right. That just reminded me of the Dave Chappelle.
That's what was on my mind. That's exactly.
The wrap it up box.
Yo, wrap that shit up, B. Wrap that shit up.